All right, so yesterday we reviewed our circles of evaluation, and we reviewed that we had done these with math, with adding, and we kind of looked at them, and we recalled that with a circle, we have the name of our function up top. So if I was going to multiply two numbers, I would have that up there, and then the arguments, the thing it's going to do that to right here. So this would be 2 times 3. Looking at this circle right here, we can tell the name of the function, how many arguments are being given, and we could take a good guess at what this is going to produce. So I'm going to ask you to answer those. Great. Now we could see the name of the function is star, and these right here are the arguments. It's being given 3 arguments, and we can make some sort of assumption that it's going to make a solid red star. We're maybe unsure of what 50 means. Maybe that's going to be how many stars we want. Maybe that's going to be something else. So, just like when we were converting those circles of evaluation into code with our math, we can do the same thing. So, remember that as we kind of come in right here, we hit a circle. We get a text box. We hit a circle. So that shows us parentheses. This looks like a parentheses. Whenever we come into a circle, we write the name of the function, which is star. And then as we go through, we type in the arguments that we hit. So in this case, the first thing we hit is 50. And then we hit this string called solid. And then this string called red. And then remember, as we leave, we have this end parentheses right here. So that's what the code would look like. Star space 50 space solid space red parentheses. It's important that we have the spaces between each of these arguments. All right, so now you go to WeScheme and you're going to type this code into the interactions window on the right hand side. So you're going to go wescheme.org, and instead of logging in, you're going to press start coding. And then over on the right hand side, you're going to type in star 50, quotation marks, solid, quotation marks, red, and you're going to press enter. And when you do that, I want you to answer these questions right here. All right, so looking at that, we saw that it made a star, and that first number tells us the size of the star. So 50 pixels was the size that we were given, but we can make it bigger or smaller. And then when we tried these things, we had 2 options. We had outline or solid. We could only use those strings. We couldn't do striped or dots or anything like that. And then we can do some different colors as well. So star takes in a number and 2 strings, and that number is a size. The first string is, okay, what type of star? And the third one, or the second string, the third argument, is the color. All right, so we just learned some things from star, this new function. Hey, remember that we've talked about numbers before, and numbers, we're going to say that is what we'll call a, sorry, I had to pause the video. Okay, so we have learned about numbers and strings so far. Numbers are just those things, anything that is a number, and it's not in quotation marks. So like the number 4 or 0.2 or 1/3. Those are all numbers, as long as they're not in quotation marks. A string is anything in quotation marks. Okay, so when we put anything in quotation marks, our programming language will see that as, oh, this is not a number or anything. This is a string, and I do certain things with strings. I can do different functions with them than numbers. So even if I put the number 4 in quotation marks, it is not a number. It's a string. It sees it as a character, a group of letters or numbers or anything together. And I can't add strings. Okay. I can't add the string 4 and the number 4. They're two different types, so it doesn't know what to do. It's like apples and oranges. I can't actually add them. I still have two separate things. So the third thing we learned about just now is images. Okay, that's a new data type, images. And images are those things that they're not numbers, they're not strings, they are visual things. And you'll notice that on the programming language in WeScheme, when you make an image, you can two-finger tap on it and save that image. That's one way that you know. So what I want you to do um, on these is to answer these questions right here. What is the data type of each of the values listed below? Number, string, or image? All right. Now the next part is, what data type will these expressions, these functions, evaluate to? So don't give me the answer. I want to know what data type it would be: a number, a string, or an image. Okay. Finally, some of the last things that we learned today, um, we talked about the domain of a function. And the domain are those things, those arguments that it takes in. Okay, so like when we were doing adding and subtracting, those took in two numbers. They had a domain of two numbers. Star took in a number and two strings. So it had three things in its domain. And other functions will take different types of inputs. And by being able to kind of document and understand the domain of what it takes in, we're able to use the function more easily instead of having to try and mess around with it or guess at what it needs. If we could document that, we're able to use it right away and see examples. The range is what it produces, okay, what it returns, okay? So it's important to know how to use a function and what the function needs in its domain, but it's also important to understand what the function is going to produce. Especially, for example, if I needed to produce a number, I'm not going to use star. If I needed to produce an image, I would need to use a function that would give me an image. Okay, so we need to know what it produces. Okay, so we want to know both the domain and the range, and that will help us to prevent little mistakes. And over time, that'll be easier to remember. One of the last things that we learned, okay, is these things called contract statements. And basically, what we're talking about here is that as we learn about these, and I'll share this with you in the next section, uh, we want to be able to leave comments of what these aspects of our program does. So when we're writing a program, someone else might be using this, or someone else might be looking at the code, or perhaps I had a job and I had to write a part of this program. That was my job, and I have to hand it off to another department, and they're going to add their piece. Well, they need to know what I created so that they know how to use it. And comments are helpful ways to do that. It is something you can put directly in the code, and you can write whatever you want there. But the program itself, when it's run, it doesn't read those comments. It's just for the programmer itself. And so when we write these contract statements, we are going to write the name of the function, the domain, and the range. So for example, the contract for star is, and this is our little thing that we put for a comment, it's star. The domain is number string string, and then it produces an image.